Hello! Welcome to an adventure. Good afternoon. I hope that you are all having a great week so far. Welcome to Archival Adventures, the once-a-week show that I bring to you from Special Collections and University Archives at Virginia Tech. We are live on two channels. Twitch.tv/VTUL Studios, as well as Twitch.tv/Rogan27. So whichever channel you're joining us from, welcome. It is good to have you here. Let me see what has gone on during the opening. Shadows of Life, thank you so much for the bit. Of course, Siribot is here, keeping us safe. Pretty Witchery, hello. I don't know what sleep is, but I hope that I will discover someday. Hannah, it's good to see you. Shadows, it's good to see you. NeoGets. Oh, we've got Doritos in the chat. Sterling, hello, welcome. It's good to see you. I hope you're having a good afternoon. Ready to be home from work, but otherwise good. Hi, Matt M33. It's good to see you. Just catching up on procrastination. Yeah, okay. The music, of course, is provided by Lo-Fi Girl. It's some things I downloaded a while ago. This one is called Space Pirates. But I can, apparently the author of this one is Purple Cat. But if you like it, let me, I can get it, I can point you towards it at some point. Yeah, as I stumble over all of the words. You did see me yesterday, and there are fresh Dr. Peppers in the fridge. Hello, Lord Portico. It is good to see you as well. Welcome. I don't know what's going on with Twitch, but it has not been auto-refreshing lately, so I don't know. Oh, actually, yes, Pretty Witchery. I do have Lo-Fi Girl, although I went looking for new stuff today and could not find where the downloading was. So I didn't actually grab any new stuff because I downloaded these like last year or earlier this year or something, but now it just points towards the YouTube and the like Spotify and all the other like streaming services, and I try not to use that, even though it's technically still Lo-Fi Girl music. I prefer to know what the tracks are and just run them from the machine. Are they Diet Dr. Peppers? You could attract a rogue John Green. I do not know what that means. I mean, technically, all of the zero sodas are diet sodas. So, yes. I apparently don't pay enough attention to what John Green is doing. Because... yeah, no, I know who he is. I don't know why a Diet Dr. Pepper would attract him. That's the... where I'm lacking in the knowledge. Anyway, but you can... okay, I did not know that. So, we have so much stuff and nowhere near enough time today. So I'm actually going to bring up the finding aids so that we can see what we're looking at today. But you can always throw comments at me in chat. Woo! Today, we will be exploring the NASA papers of Robert Gilruth. It helps if you spell the commands correctly. I mean, sometimes, yeah. Although, if there's a common misspelling, I can program it in so that it will also call it. Tosses comments at Rogan in chat. Thank you. Okay, so I have 6 boxes from this collection, which is all of the boxes. I do not have the oversized folders. So anything that says it's in an oversized folder, I don't have it here. That said, if you see something that says it's in an oversized folder and you're like, I really need to see that, let me know and we'll see what I can do, because it's possible I could go grab it or have somebody bring it to me. But who is this person? I think that's an important thing. Oh, I tried to increase the size and it, because it's not necessarily a household name that you all would just know. So Robert R. Gilruth was born 1913 and died in 2000. He was an aerospace engineer and NACA/NASA administrator. NACA was the precursor to NASA. We've talked about it before. I forget what the C stood for. National Aeronautics. Yeah, I can't remember what the C stood for. If somebody wants to look it up and drop it in chat, that'd be wonderful. But it was NASA before NASA was NASA. Ooh, Key Squared, thank you so much for the 49-month resubscription. And welcome in, it's good to see you. So Gilruth was an aerospace engineer. He got his bachelor's in aeronautical engineering from the University of Minnesota in 1935. He got his master's from the same place in 1936. Flight research engineer for Langley Aeronautical Laboratory of the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. There it is. That's what NACA stood for. The National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA. And so he was a flight research engineer at their Langley facility from 37 to 45. From 1945 to 1950, he worked as chief of the Pilotless Aircraft Research Division, and then was assistant director from 50 to 58. The way this is written, I'm assuming of the Pilotless Aircraft Research Division. He headed the Space Task Group for NASA from 1958 until 1961. And he was charged with directing Project Mercury, which of course was the precursor to Project Apollo, which was the moonshot. From 61 to 72, he was then the first director of NASA's Manned Spacecraft Center, which you hear of in movies, just called Houston. So there's also a link. I don't know if this link works, because this finding aid was written a while ago. I don't know exactly when. 2012. So whether this will still point anywhere. Oh, it might just be, yeah, it just goes to the main NASA website. But yeah, there are a number of resources on here about him. If you want to delve into it. But we have, like I said, lots of materials, and we're going to look at them. Specifically, the collection consists of Gilruth's papers, notes, records, articles, photographs, awards, degrees, certificates, and artifacts A majority of the collection contains professional papers from his work at NACA and NASA, including speeches and presentations, reports, photographs, oral history, transcripts, notes, and newspaper clippings, as well as certificates, awards, and artifacts. Personal materials include a Typescript Diary, Gilruth's 1936 master's thesis, and an unpublished memoir. So, as always, if you peruse the finding aid and you see something listed that you're interested in seeing, let me know, because so much stuff, nowhere near enough time, and I don't actually know the material. Because the extent of my knowledge is reading this finding aid. I have not actually looked at the stuff yet. So it looks like we have a series called Artifacts. Then awards, certificates, and degrees. Wow, I'm just tripping over all the words. Correspondence, primarily incoming professional letters and telegrams received by Gilruth. Interviews and memoirs, lectures and speeches, newspaper clippings, personal papers, including the diary, and I haven't looked yet, but I have it listed as a possibility. If the diary is interesting, it may be the next diary that we do after the Teenage Civil War diary. Photographs, reports, notes, and professional writings. There were a number of books that came with it that have been removed and put into the rare books collection. There's just a flag on one of the boxes. What do you mean, Shadows? I'm not... Oh, the flag. Yeah, it's in box 3, folder 41. I can definitely get out the NASA flag. I actually know that one because I've used it in an exhibit. But yeah, so there's this big long listing of all the things, and we can explore. And since you bring it up, I'll start with the flag. There's actually just a lot of stuff. Usually I have like one box or a couple folders. This time I've got a lot more stuff. Oh, what did it say? What did it say? The flag was box 3, folder 41. Okay. We have folder 41. Did you know NASA had a flag? I didn't until I saw this. I mean, it makes sense that NASA has a flag, but yeah, I was unaware that there was a NASA flag until I was looking for things for an exhibit and saw this listed in this collection. Congratulations, Madam 33. You've been randomly selected as VIP for the stream. Enjoy the exclusive perks like adding pun points and the lovely little digital gemstone next to your name. But yeah, so this is the NASA flag. And you'll see very much like the elements of what we're familiar with from the NASA logo, and now more recently the Space Force logo, with so there's, I believe, the sun, the moon. I don't actually know. There are celestial bodies. We can look up, because I don't remember. I know I looked at it before, but honestly, it's been 2 years? Sterling. Yes. Ooh. I'm gonna find information about it, because I did use it in an exhibit, but that was like a couple years ago. I don't remember all the symbology on the flag. Okay, so on the flag is the NASA seal. And let's see, what does it mean? Okay. It'll be easier if I do this. Must be hard to make spacesuits to fit their flippers. Symbols of NASA. From the wing of the space shuttle to the top of the NASA homepage, the official insignia is probably the best known symbol, which of course is the blue star field with someday I may outgrow seal jokes, but today is not that day. The round red, white, and blue insignia, nicknamed the Meatball, was designed by employee James Motorelli in 1959, NASA's second year. It incorporates references to different aspects of the mission of NASA. The round shape represents a planet. The stars represent space. The red V-shaped wing represents aeronautics. And the circular orbit around the agency's name represents space travel. So that's the symbology present there. Then there's the worm logo from 1975 until 92. They have a 3D printable meatball? Oh, I'm gonna have to print that in our 3D printing lab. After it was introduced, the meatball was the most common symbol for 16 years, but in 75, NASA decided to create a more modern logo, which consisted of the word NASA in a unique type style, was nicknamed the Worm. It was retired in 92, and the meatball has been the most common agency symbol since. In addition to the insignia, NASA has another official symbol. If the meatball is the everyday face of NASA, the NASA seal is the dressed up version. The NASA administrator uses the seal for formal purposes such as award presentations and ceremonies. Like the meatball insignia, it includes planet, stars, orbit, and vector elements. Planet, stars, orbit, vector. But I think that would be the moon. And then it goes into other symbology. But basically, the seal is what's on the flag. And it has all the elements of the meatball, the planet, the stars, the orbit, the vector, but it also has this, which is definitely the moon. Anyway, yeah, that's the NASA flag. Which, it makes sense that they have one, and it never occurred to me that they had one until I ran across it in this collection. I don't know what I'm pulling out next. I grabbed box 6, and we'll see what's inside it. Box 6 is smaller, definitely an artifact inside here. a couple of artifacts. Let's see what wonderful treasures we have. Well, first, we have what is essentially a gigantic die. I think, is this? Yeah, it's a D12. I thought it was, but honestly, when they're this size, I'm like, how do I know? I had to count the sides. Anyway. It's definitely an award. Robert R. Gilruth, a great friend and helmsman. A new hand touches the beacon. Wait. Space? The One Ring campaign die? No, I get the jokes. So, this is from the AMES Research Center, the facility in Ames, Iowa, which is just outside Des Moines, and it's where Iowa State University is located. But on it, like, I think it's amazing that I don't know why it's a D12. Exactly, Sterling. Iowa has been mentioned. Like, I love that it's a D12. I don't know why it's a D12. Blunt body concept, Cooper pilot rating, Project Pioneer, V/STOL aircraft, flight simulation techniques, lunar surface magnetometer, origin of tektites, lifting bodies, supersonic air inlet technology, computational fluid dynamics, and chemical evolution of life. I think it might be that they chose it just because it was the number of things that they needed listed was 11, and then they wanted the logo. I don't know if there's any information about the award aside from just the fact that it exists in here. I'm gonna look and see. Commemorative object from the NASA AMES Research Center. That's the only mention of the AMES Research Center, so it was some sort of a thank you, a great friend and helmsman, but beyond that, I don't have any specifics. Man, this thing really wants to be inside a magic 8-ball. Indeed. But I think it's awesome. You could roll it, and I came up with Origin of Tektites by rolling it, but also this surface is not intended for rolling gigantic dice. Okay, let's see what else was in here. Can anyone tell me, what is this? I have covered up the answer. But does anybody know what it is by looking at it? I can zoom in if you would like. It is not a challenge coin. Rolling for damage may damage the document more than the goblins. A D2! Neo gets... you're more or less correct that it is a D2. Oh, apparently it's upside down when viewed that way. Hang on one second. I'm gonna cover the plaque so that you... Okay. With it right side up and zoomed in, can you tell what it is? Um, interesting. Now I flip it over and it's the wrong side up. But utraque unum 1768 DH Hispan etind Rex. Let's see. Carolus the Third DG Hispan etind Rex. It's not Charles. It's Carolus the Third. King. I don't know all these words. But I can find out. If you read too much Latin, you'll summon something. Yeah, it just means Carolus the Third, Spanish king. And then, of course, on the front, utraque unum. Both one. Oh, is Carolus the Latin for Charles? It might be. Not being an American might not be helping you for once. This is not necessarily because this would have... You would be able to identify this item if you were familiar with a specific period of time in which Spain held some financial power. Because this is likely made from South American silver. This being an authentic silver restrike of a 1768 Spanish pillared dollar. It's a Spanish piece of 8. Presented to Dr. Robert R. Gilruth, Southwestern Savings Association, New Home Office Dedication, September 1968. So it's a Spanish piece of 8, but it's a restrike, and I'm not sure exactly what that means. Ooh, here we go. What is a restrike coin? Restrike coins are coins that were struck at a latter date but with the same design as an original. Mints often do restrikes of popular or classic coins which can become affordable collectibles. Usually less valuable than originals. Okay. So it's essentially a replica. It's not an actual piece of 8, it's a replica collector's item. It's still probably actual silver because that would be the point of doing it. But somewhere in the markings, I'm sure beyond the plaque, something on the coin itself probably indicates that it is a restrike. But I don't know specifically what that would be because I am not a rare coin collector or expert thereon. Silver isn't that expensive these days, to be frank. Though it used to be incredibly expensive, sometimes more than gold. Yes, indeed. The Spanish silver dollar, the pieces of 8, Spanish pieces of 8, which was basically taking one of these and using cutters to cut it into wedge-shaped pieces, and you would cut it into 8 pieces, and you could spend the pieces. Those were pieces of 8. They were literal pieces of a Spanish silver dollar. And people would try to cut corners. Literally cutting corners off of pieces of 8, because that way, like if you shave down a corner, or you could retain some of the silver and not give the full value, because a piece of 8 was a specific weight, and when it was like the silver dollar was a specific weight, and when you cut it into 8 pieces, they held a specific value based on the weight of the standardized weight of the coin. But of course, people found ways to cheat that by cutting corners. We don't have change. Get the metal snips out. Exactly. Okay, we've got some sort of metal. I'm gonna zoom in and we'll see what it is. These are kind of neat, but I do want to actually get to documents as well. But I like this music. Oh, University of Minnesota. Regents of the University of Minnesota. Outstanding achievement. It's an outstanding achievement medal from the Regents of the University of Minnesota. An interesting case. At first I thought I was going to open it and it was going to be like an ink pad for a stamp. Technically, it is a document. These are all documents. We can talk about the documentalope again. Okay, we've got a couple of additional items in here. We'll look at them one at a time. Okay, I'm gonna figure out what the words say first. Oh. And then, okay, so this is a ribbon with a pin. And the pin, oh wow, it actually will let me go in even closer. I didn't think I could get any closer. Mercury orbital, Friendship 7. Do you all see it? So we've got, of course, the globe and an orbit around it, and it engraved Mercury orbital, but engraved on the orbit itself is the name of the ship that made the orbit, which getting the light in the grooves so that it's visible, but you can see it there. Yeah, Friendship 7, which was the ship, the first ship in the Mercury program, Project Mercury, that orbited the Earth. Which was a big achievement at the time. Friendship 7, well, the first manned vessel to orbit the Earth. Crewed vessel, but manned because when it was. Okay. Oh, I will zoom out We have another medallion here. I knew it could zoom in. I didn't realize it could go quite that close in. That was pretty awesome. Okay. The question is, will I be able to make out the wording? News Tribune, miniature. Aircraft tournament, 1929? I think it says 29. Yeah. Given that he went to the University of Minnesota and it was from Minnesota, I'm assuming that this is the Minneapolis News Tribune. I think it was Minneapolis. Because now it's the Star Tribune, but that was the merger of the St. Paul and Minneapolis papers. I think it's the Minneapolis News Tribune and the St. Paul Star, but I don't know for certain. It has wings. It has two kinds of wings. It is indeed a propeller with wings. I guess I was saying two kinds of wings because the propeller is like wings, but yes, it is a propeller with wings. That's cool. Another Minnesota item. Life member of something. Something with a very, very small item that I'm going to... Redundant propulsion? Sure. I don't know the best way to get this to... I need to be able to hold up part of it so that I can get it level for the camera. Because even just looking at it in person, I don't think I will be able to read it. I think the camera will be necessary to make out what it says. Yeah, the string weight, it will hold it level for me. I don't understand NASA sometimes. We need a name for our project to orbit the Earth. Mercury? Perfect. Yeah, I don't know. And why was Apollo going to the moon? Wouldn't Apollo be more appropriate for a Mars mission? Or am I confusing my mythologies? I don't know. But yeah, maybe there's info in here about why it was called Mercury. Apollo is the sun. Yeah. So then why is Apollo going to the moon? Okay. The Congress of Parents and Teachers. National Congress of Parents and Teachers, 1897. I'm guessing that's when it was started. I'm guessing that's the founding year, because that was before he was alive. The National Congress of Parents and Teachers. Lifetime member. You assume that they decided that Artemis was too feminine at the time? I guess maybe they just didn't want to be too on the nose and call it like Luna. Actually, what is Artemis the moon in Greek mythology? What about in Roman mythology? Luna. Okay, so Luna is the Roman name for the moon. Okay. The string weight is nice, yes. Okay. That is most of it. Oh, wow. Okay, but what? No, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, there it goes. So the Restrike is from 1968. Sun was called Apollo's chariot. Maybe they were just going with the thing that moves fast in the sky equals chariot. I don't know. I think. Well, let's look at the finding aid. Somebody take a look at the finding aid and see. Do you see anything, any topics that indicate that that we might find information about early Project Mercury and possibly why it was named Mercury? Because that would be the way to go about this, is take a look and see. Well, you don't. I said somebody. It doesn't have to be you, Sterling. But I will continue showing things if somebody wants to peruse the finding aid and tell me that of any items that seem like they might give us that information. Okay. Just checking. It said that there was a issue. Wiki says it was called Project Astronaut, but Eisenhower felt it gave too much attention to the pilot. I've been trouble. Oh, it's your network, not the site. I mean, it could totally be the site too. Okay, so this is another box of artifacts. This one is a larger box, so I'm gonna set it next to me. Before I zoom in, anyone have an idea? Box 4, folder 21, oral history transcript interview on NASA history. That is entirely possible. I will. So we can definitely take a look. You finished your stuff? Now you have coffee? That's how it works? Finish your stuff and get a treat. Yes, although typically I think people use the coffee to help them finish their stuff. But you do you. This is an official key to the city. Can you guess what city? This is a key to the city, Roswell, New Mexico. Dr. Robert R. Gilruth, Honorary Citizen of Roswell, New Mexico, presented by City of Roswell, Roswell Chamber of Commerce, Roswell Rotary Club, June 2nd, 1969. I've been to Roswell so many times and they've never given me a key. What I think is the most humorous thing here is that it looks so normal. It looks like any key to the city that any town would give. There's nothing alien about it. And Roswell today, everything is weird and alien themed, and I can't imagine that a key to the city of Roswell today wouldn't have some sort of spacecraft alien type theme to it. And this is just a normal key to the city. Like, that's what I find interesting about that one is just that it's so normal. Okay, let's literally nothing notable about Roswell except for the alien crash, but they try to present themselves as a normal place. I believe it. It's also from 1990s. Yes. Okay, so this is an interview with Robert Gilruth, April 17th, 1969. And yeah, let's see what's here. Oral history transcript interview with Robert Gilruth on NASA history. The Manned Spacecraft Center started with the old Space Task Group. It was created when apparently he said Glennon, but then they crossed that out, and I cannot tell what they replaced it with. Royalty and distinguished people are in box 3, folders 21 and 22. We can get there in a moment. Instructed me to get on with the project to put a man in space. At that time, it was a one-project organization, but it had all the elements we have at the Manned Spacecraft Center today, with a few exceptions. It included the hardware development team, which is responsible for conceiving the plan, writing the specifications for it, and conducting the exercise with industry to get bids and select contractors. Operations team. Crew systems element responsible for selecting and training astronauts. Of course, all of this was on a much smaller scale. The original astronaut corps consisted of only 7 men, which is why it was named Friendship 7. We also had to conceive the techniques for selecting astronauts and training them. Now we have quite a backlog of experience, but the tasks are by and large the same. During the early days, we were kicked around from one place to another. At one time, we were an element of the Goddard Space Center called the Manned Satellite Division. I served as director of Project Mercury and as head of the Manned Satellite Division of Goddard. You can guess which title I liked better. About Christmas 1960, Dr. Glennon, and at the advice of Dr. Siemens, decided we were reporting too low down in the organization and made us an independent group, reporting directly to Washington. We were then about ready to make our first manned flights. We flew the chimpanzee Ham early in 1961 and Commander Shepard May 5, 1961. We then had no ongoing program. Mercury was a dead-end program, and it would be expected that the whole Space Task Group would phase out after the specification mission was done. None of us thought this would really happen, though. In May, the President and the Congress decided on instituting the Apollo program, so we went from having no program in the future to the tremendous challenge of landing a man on the moon, and in a very short period of time. That decision really led to the creation of the Manned Spacecraft Center. With the advent of the total Apollo plan, it was obvious to everyone that a much larger and stronger group would be required to manage the spacecraft and crew end of the business. Mr. Webb came as administrator about February 1961 and created a site selection team to canvass various spots around the country for a suitable location. This team, together with Mr. Webb and others, selected Houston as the site for the Manned Spacecraft Center. Although there may have been considerable political influence in this selection, it was a good choice of location. We needed a place close to the sea for our recovery development tests and recovery readiness tests. The Gulf of Mexico has served as a basic proving grounds for our spacecraft. We needed to be near a large government airfield, and we have Ellington. We wanted to be near universities so our people could continue their training, and there are good universities in this area. We wanted to be centrally located on air traffic routes because our contractors are generally on the west coast, and the Cape is on the east coast. We needed to be in a place where people would like to live. A large metropolitan center offers many cultural and shopping advantages. These factors are all present in this area, so I have been very pleased with the selection that was made. However, I will be the first to confess that I was not enamored with the selection when it was first announced, or when I first looked it over. Our organization went from a single project organization for Mercury to a multiple project organization when Apollo was brought into the picture. Almost concurrently, a Gemini program was instituted to help fill the gap between Mercury and Apollo, although it was not announced formally until December 1961. Thus, we went from a single program center to a 3-program center. However, in the 2 new programs, we had more limited responsibility than we had in Mercury. We organized in the usual straightforward fashion. We simply instituted project offices, and we tried to keep the project offices reasonably small, and drawing needed institutional support from other elements of the center, such as in the crew area, flight operations, basic engineering, and science. In our early days, there was perhaps the usual amount of difficulty in getting the project offices to learn how to work with engineering support people and the other support groups. It's characteristic that project offices always want to have all of their resources in their office, including administrative and technical support. We went through this phase in their development. In regard to the many changes of leadership in the key offices, I think this was to be expected in such a dynamic activity as we had in Apollo. Charlie Frick was our initial project manager. He did a good job in getting the program started in a hurry. We had a lot of problems because we were operating out of rented buildings, and we're doing a lot of things for the first time. Boy, this sounds very familiar to how things operate in places today. Also, NR was not the easiest contractor to manage. I do not know which contractor NR would be. Yeah, because this is earlier than where most of my NASA knowledge is, so I'm not sure which contractor that is. Because they had to create a whole division to do the Apollo job. Pyland took over after Frick left and held the fort until we got Joe Shea. Joe stayed with us for quite a while and carried the project to a late state of development. At this point, we were interrupted by the tragedy of the Apollo fire, and from then on, we had to put all our energies and our best efforts into getting out of that difficulty. I think this accounts for the turnover in the project office. The Apollo fire, of course, being a test of the Apollo spacecraft, 2 astronauts inside it, and it caught on fire and they both died. It was like, what, I think it was the first test? It was really early on. Attempting to organize the Apollo program office, managing the Gemini program out of the VA building in downtown Houston. Oh, wow. Putting John Glenn in orbit was #1 priority. Yet we realized that the timescale on Gemini was extremely short and had to get it rolling fast. Apollo was a very demanding 3rd program, and at the same time we were trying to organize groups and design a new center out here at Clear Lake, not to mention the hiring we were doing at that time. I remember one day Mr. McDonnell, head of McDonnell Aircraft Corporation, now McDonnell Douglas, visited me. I showed him what we were doing, and he said, "Bob, I don't want to be discouraging, but I don't see how you can possibly get done all the things you have to do." But somehow or other we did them. I think we were all proud of the center that was created and the record Gemini and Mercury and thus far in Apollo. The record we have made. Okay. We had a lot of good people who were hardworking and persevering and weren't easily discouraged. This is kind of an interesting oral history. I'm not going to read the entire thing. It's possible that somewhere in there he'll talk about like why they got their names. We're about to be attacked by ads, so I'm going to take us to the Be Right Back screen. I'll skim it to see if that info's there, and if not, we'll move on to something else when we get back from the ads. See you shortly. Okay, I do believe that the advertisements should be gone. So welcome back, everyone. I do see we had a hat trick redeemed. So I have two options today. Brown or purple? Siege, do you care brown or purple? Let me know and I will swap the hats. I did not find the information in the in the oral history, so okay, but you're not the ones that redeemed it, so but I will be happy to put the purple one on if that's what everybody would like. This was as close as I got to like a mid-20th century hat, which is why I brought it today. But yeah, seeing no objections, we'll pop on the purple. We'll just go full on flat cap, which is of course my normal style. Hi, Best Insider. Okay, so I saw we were wanting box 3. Commander Shepard, yes. Oh, and folder 7. We'll see. I don't have the folders here. I would have to step away. And I don't know how big they are, so I don't even know if they would fit on the table. But folder 3 box 3 folders 21 and 22. Royalty and distinguished people. Let's find out. It does indicate photographs. Royalty. $1967. So I'm guessing these are going to be glossies. I have two options. I could do the white cotton gloves, or I can do 2x2 hands of blue. These give me more dexterity while I won't have to take them off and put them on quite as often, but yes. 2x2 hands of glue. Some of you get the reference. Okay, let's see what we have. Does anybody know who they are? I'm sure I can turn it over and possibly find out, but if anybody knows and wants to share. Let's see. 5 January 1967, Manned Spacecraft Center, Houston, Texas. Prince Juan Carlos visit. Melmots, you were correct. It is Juan Carlos. Also, welcome. No worries about the caps. Prince Don Juan Carlos de Borbon, right, of Spain, and his princess Sophie of, is that Greece? Yes, Greece. Inspect space flight equipment during their tour of the Manned Spacecraft Center. At left is Alexander Gulandres. In background is Marcelino Fernandez, Consul of Spain, Houston, Texas, and his wife. So, some Spanish royalty in 1967. Looks like we've got a couple of photos from their visit. These, I had not seen these before, so usually we end up going for NASA photos, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen a lot of these. I had not seen these before. You're from Spain? Well, welcome in. It's great to have you visiting. Oh, I think they're getting a look at a space flight suit. Let's see what it says. Inspect iron pants worn on the Gemini extravehicular spacesuits. I wonder if they're actually iron. I'm guessing not. They were probably, because it's in quotes, it was, I'm guessing they were just called iron pants because they were gray in color and they were metal or metallic. I think they're probably the same, like that, like what space blankets are made of. I'll see if I can find out. One would think that it might be information that would show up in a quick search, but let's see what I can. Network connections flaking out again? Oh, I'm sorry. I found a reference that mentions, okay. The trousers were a technological wonder themselves, an 11-layer garment fashioned in part of a chromium nickel alloy called Chromel R. Nevertheless, they were sometimes referred to as the iron pants, as if they'd been constructed as an instrument of torture by the Spanish Inquisition, or more frequently and more accurately as the stainless steel pants. You're in the middle of reading a document for work from the 1970s that's saying the most pressing environmental issue we face in our community is all the gosh darn visual clutter. We've got to do something about these TV antennas. Bast Insider. I don't think we solved visual clutter. That is a bizarre look at a spacesuit. I'm guessing... Okay. Mercury... I don't think they were intended to exit the ship at all. Like, there were no spacewalks as part of Project Mercury. So if this is Mercury... I doubt the suit... Well, no, it talks about... Well, that was Gemini, extravehicular spacesuits. Yeah, it just says briefed on briefed on space flight equipment by Edward L. Hayes, Deputy Chief Crew Systems Division. It's so weird to see it with nothing inside. And it's all like squishy. These are interesting photos. I had not seen these before. Prince Don Juan Carlos de Borbon of Spain examines spaceflight equipment during his tour. Front row, left to right, Mrs. Alexander Galandris, and Princess Sophie. In the background, Marcelino Fernandez, Consul of Spain, and his wife. I don't know what specific spaceflight equipment those glasses are, but 8 years before Franco's death. It's weird, like we learned some European history in school growing up. I don't know a lot about the history of Spain after World War II. Spanish history that we learned when I was in school was all pretty much before World War II. And we really didn't talk very much about Spain or Portugal in history classes after that. I was not a history major. I for college, I was community studies and then library and information science. So I'm not a historian, I'm an archivist. So I don't know like all the details, but now I need to read up on Spanish history. Because I'm realizing that that's a gap and I'm missing information. Because I know most of like the rest of Europe. Probably still more than you learned about Spanish history as a UK student. Spanish Civil War started in 1936. Franco died around 75. Yeah, like the Spanish Civil War is a thing that we know of. Like, it's a thing where if somebody mentions it, it's like, oh yeah, that was a thing that happened. And I might have been able to tell you around what time period, but I don't really know any details. Before his death, he tried to restore monarchy. Huh. Because we hear about like the French Revolution, and we hear about the Wars of the Roses in England, and the overthrow of the Russian imperial family, and of course Germany and World War I and World War II there. Lots and lots of history of Italy, because so much of the history we learn is Greco-Roman history. And then, of course, fictionalized accounts of pilgrims the founding of America. I mean, not completely fictional, but we learn those when we're really young, so they don't go into all of the detail that is less savory. And then a little bit about like the conquistadors in South America and things like that, but we don't really ever go back beyond like after Spanish Inquisition times, and like after that, just general history, at least when I was growing up here, never really went back to the Iberian Peninsula at all. But honestly, that's more than we got about pretty much any African history other than Egypt. And we didn't talk about Australia pretty much at all. But it's interesting to me that I could probably, if I saw the names of like Scandinavian royals, like Dutch royalty or Swiss royalty or things like, if I saw those names, I would at least like recognize them. And Franco, I definitely recognize the name, but like Juan Carlos, completely new to me. It's not a royal that I was even familiar with. Just like Birds Australia is made up. Actually, I don't think Australia is made up. I think it's New Zealand. New Zealand is definitely the one that's made up, because it's the one that gets left off maps all the time. That's a great shot. Like, I could see that shot of him with the bubble helmet just on front pages of newspapers. No, it's Finland that's made up. Okay, I'm not going to look at all of the photos here. I'm going to look and see if there are other... we'll see them quickly as I go through, because I want to see if there are other... and there's so much stuff and so little time. Who is this? Belgian visitors. Their Majesties Baudouin the First, second from left, King of the Belgians, and Queen Fabiola, center, visit with astronaut Neil Armstrong, right, during a tour of the manned spacecraft center. At far left is Dr. Robert R. Gilruth, manned spacecraft center director. At far right, back to camera, is Mrs. Patricia White, widow of astronaut Edward H. White II. Okay, so Baudouin the First, King of the Belgians, and Queen Fabiola. And then here, at the far left, sort of cut off, is the person whose papers these are. If Australia is not real, then I can only imagine where my children are and got their accents. I agree that New Zealand is made up, as someone who knows several people from New Zealand. I mean, all countries are made up. So. It's interesting that the random Belgian royalty just in the middle of all of the Spanish royalty photos. Ooh, what is this? This is... La Zarzuela, February 6th, 1967. Dear Mr. Gilruth, King of the Belgians sounds so weird instead of King of Belgium. It does, but it is definitely a phraseology that would have been used more traditionally, like in the past. talking about king of the people rather than of the country. On our return to Madrid after our visit to the United States, Princess Sophie and I want to thank you very much for all the attentions we got during our visit to the Manned Spacecraft Center. We are really very impressed with what we saw and also with all the people we met that work there. We also felt a unique atmosphere, rare to find, of mutual understanding, peaceful coexistence, friendliness, patience, tolerance, bravery, and many other virtues. It was a wonderful and unforgettable visit. Let us hope we might meet again in the near future. All the best, always. Sincerely yours. And yeah, that's Juan Carlos. Comparing the signatures. Because this is definitely Sophie, and then that's Juan Carlos's signature. To Dr. Robert R. Gilruth, with our affections. 1967. I have another collection that has a lot of like these kinds of signed official portraits of that collection is US presidents. And that we'll look at it eventually. It's from a collection of papers from a woman that was a nurse in the White House for like I don't know exactly how many decades. A long time. Many presidents. It would be interesting to have both a king of the country and a king of the people. That would be quite interesting and confusing, I think. Okay, so that was the folder marked royalty. The other one that you asked about was distinguished people. These are from the 1960s to 70s. Let's see who we've got. I'm like, I don't know. Oh, this is 5 June 1970, Manned Spacecraft Center, Venezuelan presidential visit. Dr. Rafael Caldera, President of the Republic of Venezuela, is briefed by Linwood C. Dunseith, Chief of Flight Support Division in the Mission Control Center's Mission Operations Control Room during a visit in June of 1970. Mrs. Caldera stands on her husband's right. Dr. Gilruth and his wife are at the right. So the Venezuelan president and first lady in the center. This is Bob Gilruth and his wife. This is the person whose papers we're exploring. And who was the director of the Manned Spacecraft Center when it was first created. I have enough game planning I have to do. Stop giving me ideas. King of the country and king of the people. That would be a good setup for something like the War of the Roses. Which, the War of the Roses was, they were fighting over being kings of England. But if one of them had claimed kingship over the people and one had claimed kingship over the country, how would that have played out differently? It's an interesting thought. Okay, so this is more of the Venezuelan presidential visits. Orientation session on the function of the Space Environment Simulation Laboratory, given by Alec C. Bond, Assistant Director for Chemical and Mechanical Systems Engineering and Development. The president of Venezuela was there for a complete tour and joined by a large party of official visitors. War of the Roses, a fashion show of Toreador kindred. This is another sort of like world leaders that we don't really learn about in general education in the US. Like mid 20th century Venezuelan president. That's not a topic we ever would have touched on in just regular history class. One king for handling rules around the country, one king rules in the country. Okay, I think I parsed what you're saying there. Okay, who are these people? Because these are new people now. Japanese prince and princess. Their Imperial Highnesses Prince and Princess Hitachi of Japan learn about activity in the Lunar Receiving Laboratory. From Dr. Paul Gast, Chief of the Planetary and Earth Sciences Division. Assisting in the briefing is Dr. Michael Duke, curator. Astronaut Stuart Rusa was taking them on a tour. Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Air Force and Command Module pilot of Apollo 14. Except that he wasn't. No, Apollo 14. Sorry. Having to remember which one is which. Anyway. It's the Japanese Emperor and Empress. In 1967. There's Bob Gilruth and somebody. General Lee Davis. Okay. Flip through quick. Because, again, so much stuff, so little time. If one of these stands out and you're like, I want to know more, just let me know which one. But otherwise, I'm going to just sort of flip through project summary. Because we have other things we can look at too. More with that one would seem to belong in the other folder, but that's not a thing we do. These are in this folder because they were in this folder. We don't reorganize them. Okay, I'm gonna put these away and let's see what else we can look at. There's so many things here. Okay, that's mostly photos. I want to learn about Project Mercury. Since he should have some things in here. Let's see what we got. Reports and articles, Apollo notes. That's not what I wanted. It's not to say I won't look at them, but he was in charge of Project Mercury. I want to learn about Mercury. Uh, which apparently could be more difficult than I expected. Because all of the documents and papers and things seem to be about Apollo. That's okay, though. Although, it's also possible they're in this box. Because there are just so many things. Ooh. Actually, yeah, I think we'll look in this box. I just found a folder that has an intriguing title. At least it's intriguing to me because he was in charge of unmanned aircraft development for NACA. Yeah, Pilotless Aircraft Research Division. And so this folder is the effect of wingtip propellers on the aerodynamic characteristics of a low aspect ratio wing, which sounds extremely technical. But I'm also super curious about, like, what does that mean? Oh, this is his thesis. This is his master's thesis. We're not going to read the master's thesis, but interesting. Introduction, list of symbols, theory, apparatus, tests and results, discussions and conclusions, curves, photographs, appendix, and bibliography. We can jump to page 6 and look at the theory. Or... oh, that's page 10. I was like, yeah, I don't understand anything on that page. For the calculation of the changes in lift and drag caused by the wingtip propellers, the propeller slipstreams were replaced by 2 parallel vortex tubes of radius r extending from propeller planes in one direction to infinity in the other direction. The formation of these propeller vortices is of such a nature that the induced velocity field extends only a distance equal to the propeller radius r inboard of the wingtip. The propellers are the energizers of this cyclic flow and may be considered as vortex sources. In this manner, Thomson's theorem, which states that the circulation about a vortex filament remains unaltered as time goes on, may be satisfied. That's a bit technical for... but essentially analyzing the sort of vortices created by the propellers, photographs of the practical experiments that the thesis is based on. Close-up of wingtip and propeller, torsion dynamometer. I mean, we have literally looked at dynamometers with no context before, so let's see what else we have in here. An investigation of the lift and thrust theoretically available from the angular momentum of a propeller wake. Right now I'm going for titles because we're just gonna see, and we can dive in if we want to. Notes on the stalling of vertical tail surfaces and on fin design. Analysis and prediction of longitudinal stability of airplanes. These are scholarly papers, so we're not going to dive that deeply into them. I'm just curious because the titles are interesting. lateral control required for satisfactory flying qualities. And this would have been like the basis for why he was put in charge of the Manned Spacecraft Center. This is his educational background. Lateral control required for satisfactory flying qualities. Another report, requirements for satisfactory flying qualities of airplanes. I'm curious about this one. And it is not top secret. We have had some unclassified things. This one's not even classified. This one is confidential. Come on. Come on, focus. Focus. It does not want to focus. Confidential. National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. Ooh, classified document. The document, or this document, come on. I know it says classified, but it's no longer classified, camera. You can actually let it be legible. This document contains classified information affecting the national defense of the United States within the meaning of the Espionage Act, USC 5031 and 32, its transmission, or the revelation of its contents in any manner to an unauthorized person is prohibited by law. Information so classified may be imparted only to persons in the military and naval services of the United States, appropriate civilian officers and employees of the federal government who have a legitimate interest themselves, and to United States citizens of known loyalty and discretion who, of necessity, must be informed thereof. But of course, these are declassified long since. Requirements for satisfactory flying qualities of airplanes. By R.R. Gilruth, Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory, April 1941. I'm very curious about what this will ultimately end up going into, because, like, that's a very general title. Requirements for satisfactory flying qualities of airplanes. And this is 1940s, so it's not that early. Or it's not that late into commercial aviation in the US. 1941 is still relatively early of commercial airlines as they're starting to get towards jet airplanes. So, curious. The need for quantitative design criterions for describing those qualities of an airplane that make up satisfactory controllability, stability, and handling characteristics has been realized for several years. Some time ago, preliminary studies showed that adequate data for the formulation of these criterions were not available, and that a large amount of preliminary work would have to be done in order to obtain the information necessary. It was apparent that flight tests of the flying qualities of numerous airplanes were required in order to provide a fund of quantitative data for correlation with pilots' opinions. Accordingly, a program was instituted which covered the various phases of work required. The first step involved the development of a test procedure and test equipment which would measure the characteristics on which flying qualities depend. This phase of the work is reported in reference 1. Another phase has involved the measurement of the flying qualities of a number of airplanes. The procedure used has been in general in accord with that described in reference 1. These airplanes were made available largely by the Army and more recently by private companies at the request of the Civil Aeronautics Board. In addition, flying qualities data of more limited scope have been obtained from time to time on a number of other airplanes. Okay, third phase. Ooh. This is more what I'm interested in. Flying quality requirements. It has been convenient to present the flying quality requirements under the following individual headings. They appear in the report in this order. 1. Requirements for longitudinal stability and control. A. Characteristics of uncontrolled longitudinal motion. B. Characteristics of elevator control in steady flight. C. Characteristics of elevator control in accelerated flight. D. Characteristics of elevator control in landing. E. Characteristics of elevator control in takeoff. Various ways that you need to pay attention to the elevators. Limits of trim change due to power and flaps. Characteristics of longitudinal trimming device. Uncontrolled lateral and directional motion. Aileron control characteristics. Yaw due to ailerons. Limits of rolling moment due to side slip. Rudder control characteristics. Yawing moment due to side slip. Crosswind force characteristics. Pitching moment due to side slip. Characteristics of rudder and aileron trimming devices. It's very technical. Of course it's technical. If your elevator is flying, you may have just inherited a chocolate factory. You're not wrong, NeoGets. But presumably your elevator is also made out of glass in that case. This is actually, for me, it's particularly interesting because we have another collection that we've actually looked at a couple of times on stream, from somebody who was a test pilot and then an aircraft crash investigator. And so tying that one with this one, if you were really digging into the history of safety requirements for aircraft during the 20th century, the two collections together would provide a lot of information, because there's the design stuff with the testing, like aircraft testing, and then development of standards for safety, and then crash investigation. And the crash investigation stuff includes not just aircraft, but also, I believe his collection has some stuff on the Challenger, because he also did space shuttle or space NASA related crashes also. Looks like he did that report a couple of times. Aerodynamic problems of guided missiles. 1947. Let's look. Confidential. Rough draft. NASA. Langley Field, Virginia. May 19, 1947. File copy to be returned to the files of Langley National Aeronautical Laboratory. Aerodynamic Problems of Guided Missiles by Robert R. Gilruth. Introduction. About 43 years have elapsed since the Wright brothers made their first flight at Kitty Hawk. I don't remember which collection. One of the collections that we have that we looked at on stream had an actual piece of fabric from the wing of the Wright brothers plane, certified and everything. It had been awarded to the person. I don't remember which collection that was. It was another NASA collection for sure. Anyway, in this 43 years, man has succeeded in obtaining controlled flight with winged aircraft at speeds well above 600 miles per hour. We've gone far beyond that now. This has not been an easy achievement. The science of flight, as it exists today, is a result of years of concentrated effort in many fields. In aerodynamics alone, the solutions to the subsonic problems of drag, lift, airloads, stability, control, propulsion, and flutter have been brought to a high degree of perfection in the modern high-speed airplane. The comparable development of supersonic aircraft, either inhabited or uninhabited, will require similar solutions for the supersonic aerodynamic problems. Moreover, in many cases, the supersonic solution will have to be compromised by requirements of the subsonic and transsonic range. Although the present situation with regard to supersonic flight is roughly comparable to that 43 years ago for subsonic flight, the timescales of anticipated progress are not necessarily comparable. Even though experimental techniques are more difficult because of the high speeds involved, the lines of attack can be drawn from prior aerodynamic experience. Much of the theoretical stability and control work done for subsonic aircraft is directly applicable to the supersonic case. Okay, but this was supposed to be about missiles. I'm going to skip a little bit. Left. It does finally talk about the Lark missile on this page, but this is all theoretical characteristics of flight, which makes sense. It's supposed to be about the aerodynamics of missiles, but for me as a layman, not as intriguing and interesting as it could have been, but still really cool. Thank you for the self-care. We will be we'll be wrapping up here very shortly. I'm gonna glance at a couple more older titles, see if they jump out. And then we'll have to call it because I will have run out of time. But there's just so much stuff. So little time. NACA wing flow tests, Typescript Diary. This is the one, it is definitely not quite what I was thinking of with regard to a diary. It's Typescript, 1961. Let's see. Will this be interesting? Should we review this diary in depth? After several days of very bad weather, during which time I made every attempt to get to Washington to see Hugh Drayden, I finally got up there Friday morning on National Airlines and had a very satisfactory half-hour's discussion with him relative to astronaut selection. I then caught a 1:10 Capital flight back to the lab and spent the balance of the afternoon reviewing with all the fellows, including Shepard, Williams, Faggot, Chamberlain, Bob Thompson, and others, the Space Task Group position relative to manned flight on MR3. It developed that the difficulties experienced with the capsule in MR2 were all susceptible to the intensive ground studies and airdrops, vacuum chamber tests, so that the requirement for another flight on a Redstone did not exist prior to a manned flight. That is, in our opinion. Okay, so this is... I'm curious whether this was originally, like, whether these entries were originally done typed, or whether this was a diary that was then later typed. But either way, that based on that first entry, I think it's going to have some interesting information in it about like early NASA work. So we'll probably look at that as the next diary that we look at. So we got some speeches. And we have another section of diary. The oral history stuff, notes on interview. Memoir. This is, I believe, an unpublished memoir. From Wallops Island to Mercury. The group that created the Mercury concept came largely from the old National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. The missile range at Wallops Island, operated by the NACA, was a major factor in the development of this group, hence the title of this paper, From Wallops Island to Mercury. The concept of the Mercury capsule, and indeed the whole plan for putting man in space, was remarkable in its elegant simplicity. This might be the place where he mentions, like, where the name came from. Yet it was a daring and unconventional approach at the time of its inception, and a subject of considerable controversy. It demonstrated principles, however, that were so sound that they were to be applied also in the design and operation of the Gemini and Apollo flight programs. The period covered by this memoir extends from the founding of Wallops Island as a missile range in May 1945 through the establishment of the Mercury project in 1958. Interesting. I know that this is an unpublished memoir. I will look at the collection details just to see, but if there are no restrictions, we may just read the memoir along with the diary, because that sounds really interesting. Okay, I could keep exploring because there's so much stuff and it's so interesting. However, we have reached the end of time that I have. I have to get all this stuff put away so that I can leave for the day. So, thank you all so much for joining me today. Of course, I have been your host, Rogan27, aka Anthony Wright Day Hernandez. Thank you to my moderators, Hannah and Sterling and Lord Portico. Thank you, Key Squared, for the resubscription. Thank you, Shadows of Life, for the bit. And of course, thank you to Lo-Fi Girl for making music available online that we can use in the background. Coming up next week, I have an item that is not going to sound particularly interesting at first glance. It is the Samuel Berger Mathematics Notebook. It is a math notebook from American Civil War time period. And I was like, I'm curious. How interesting is this? And I pulled it and flipped through it to glance at it, and it has math word problems that are written as poems. It has long division and calculations and algebra, but it has word problems that are in poetry form. So we're gonna look at that next week. And then I believe date-wise. Nope, we're good. I thought, oh yeah, no, I was right. There is no episode on the 17th of September because of a conflict, although I don't remember what the conflict is. I just know that that one got canceled. I can't do an episode that day. So we'll have next week, and then the week after there won't be. But, you know, it happens. Especially with the semester starting. Oh yeah, that's the conflict. I'm teaching a class. Let me see who's on, and we'll raid someone to continue something. You know? Yep, okay, so today we'll pop on over to Paleontologizing from the Rogan 27 channel. Uh, Still limited, can't do it from the other channel, so that one will head over to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. But yeah, enjoy some dino content. It looks like a Q&A. Oh, and he's got a couple other science streamers on with him today. So, yeah, we'll head over there, have fun. It'll be interesting. And I would totally go there from both channels if I could, but the library channel will head over to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is also a lovely channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that I will see all of you again very soon. Until I do, keep exploring history, everybody.